We are now on the video record with tape number 1 in the deposition of Daniel Kelly in the matter of Christian Ford versus R.J. Haney and Associates for the State Court of Clayton County, State of Georgia. This deposition is being held at 1551 Forest Parkway, Morrow, Georgia, 30260 on July 2nd, 2015. The time is approximately 12:39 p.m. My name is Josh Coleman, the video technician. Will counsel please identify themselves for the record?
Jeb Butler for Christian Ford.
And Michael Rafey for Christian Ford.
John Rogers for defendants Colbert and R.J. Haney.
Jennifer McNeely for UM Carrier State Farm.
The court reporter is Jody Schaffel and will now swear in the witness.
Raise your right hand, sir, please. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, I do.
Please state your name for the record.
Daniel Owen Kelly, Jr.,
Where do you live?
McDonough, Georgia.
Do you have any plans to move from McDonough, Georgia in the next year or so?
No.
We're taking this deposition in the offices of R.J. Haney, which is where you work. Is that right?
That's correct.
This is considered R.J. Haney's headquarters.
That's right.
Whose office are we in? What room?
Estimating.
Estimating. Who sits at the desk that you're sitting at now, normally?
Brandon Oravitz.
Okay.
Brandon Oravitz. Oravetz.
Have you given a deposition before?
No.
Okay. I'm going to mark as, or have already marked as Plans Exhibit 1, a copy of the notice of deposition. And I'll bring that up to you. If I leave this microphone sitting here, will it pick me up? No? All right. There's a copy of the notice. A copy for you. Mr. Kelly, you work for R.J. Haney, right?
Yes.
What is your job title?
Vice President.
How long have you worked here?
About 18 years.
What other job titles have you held in your time here?
Here.
Being R.J. Haney.
Project Manager and Senior Project Manager.
When did you become the Vice President?
Around 2006, probably, 2007.
Okay. Are there now any other Vice Presidents, or are you the only one?
I'm the only one.
During your time as Vice President, have you always been the only Vice President?
Actually, before I came here, there was another Vice President, the owner's brother.
What I mean is some companies have multiple Vice Presidents.
Mm-hmm.
For the time that you've been R.J. Haney's Vice President, which was from 2006 to the present, has there ever been another Vice President serving at the same time that you were?
No.
What do your duties as a Vice President include?
It's mainly project management and estimating.
What is project management and estimating?
Scheduling the crews. Estimating is, helping to get work, essentially, go to contracts, purchasing, purchase orders, submittals, subcontracts, all that kind of stuff. Project-specific stuff.
You said estimating involves getting work, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what some people might call marketing?
I don't think it's marketing, no.
What does it mean to get work?
You prepare numbers, bids, submit the bids, and if you're low, you get the work.
I got you. I'm going to show you a document that I'll mark as Plaintiff's Exhibit 2, and this is going to be an interrogatory response. And I don't know if you ever have seen an interrogatory response before, have you?
Okay. No.
Well, I only have 2 copies, so you and Mr. Rogers hopefully can look on together. Set it right
Can you
there.
tell me which ones he's, well, I'm not going to look at with him because I don't want to be in the camera lens. Do you know
Okay.
which ones you're going to be asking about?
Yeah, 32.
Oh,
This,
okay.
This is just we keep it simple. This Plaintiff's Exhibit 2 only has interrogatory, whatever I said, 32 on it.
Okay, great, thanks.
All right. Now, on the front page of this document, Mr. Kelly, this says, R.J. Haney and Associate Inc.'s response to plaintiff's first interrogatories and first request for production of documents. Did I read that right?
Yes.
And if we flip to the next page, I'll sort of walk you through how this works. 32 right there is the question that we asked to R.J. Haney. And R.J. Haney then answers through its lawyer, which is now and I believe was then, Mr. Rogers, who's seated to your right. And if you'll notice here, if you look at 32E, plaintiffs ask for persons responsible for interviewing and or hiring employees or independent contractors, including Dennis Colbert. Did I read that right?
Mm-hmm.
And then down here is R.J. Haney's response below. And you see where it says E and gives some names?
Mm-hmm.
One of those names is yours.
That's correct.
Okay. Did you have some responsibility for interviewing and or hiring employees or independent contractors, including Dennis Colbert?
Yes.
Okay. That's true for the entire time you've been vice president, right?
Yes.
Part of your job as vice president includes supervising other employees. Is that right?
That's right.
So you are a supervisor.
Yes.
You supervised Dennis Colbert, although possibly indirectly.
Indirectly.
Who was his immediate supervisor?
Jason Armstrong.
And Jason Armstrong reported to you.
That's correct.
All right. You know that we're sitting here today doing this deposition because of a wreck that occurred in April 2014.
Yes.
Because we have a stenographer need to be a yes or no answer. Did you say yes?
Yes.
Are you aware that Dennis Colbert was the driver of the vehicle that collided into my client, Christian Ford, giving rise to this lawsuit?
Yes.
Are you aware that Dennis Colbert has denied responsibility for the wreck?
Yes.
Are you aware that R.J. Haney has denied responsibility for the wreck?
Yes.
Now, Dennis Colbert still works for R.J. Haney, doesn't he?
Yes, he does.
And isn't it true that R.J. Haney did not reprimand, punish, or discipline Dennis Colbert at all after the wreck in which Christian Ford, my client, was injured?
That's correct.
In fact, R.J. Haney has promoted Dennis Colbert to foreman.
He is a foreman, yes.
Was he a foreman in April of 2014?
Yes, I believe he was.
Okay. R.J. Haney still allows Dennis Colbert to drive a bucket truck.
That's right.
Do you believe that Dennis Colbert is responsible for causing this wreck?
No.
Do you believe that R.J. Haney is responsible for causing this wreck?
No.
Are you aware that R.J. Haney and Dennis Colbert have consistently denied responsibility for this wreck immediately after it happened, as soon as this lawsuit was filed, and continuing today with your deposition and the deposition of another R.J. Haney employee?
Am I aware of it?
Yes.
Yes.
Do you agree that it would be dishonest for R.J. Haney to show up at the trial of this case in front of the jury and tell the jury that R.J. Haney accepted responsibility when in fact R.J. Haney has denied responsibility for at least 18 months now?
Object to form.
You can go ahead and answer.
Would you repeat the question?
Sure. And your lawyer has an objection to this question already. Do you agree that it would be dishonest for R.J. Haney to show up at the trial of this case and tell the jury that it or Dennis Colbert accepted responsibility for this wreck when in fact both R.J. Haney and Dennis Colbert have steadfastly denied responsibility for this wreck for the last 18 months or so?
One more time.
Jody, could you read my question back? I'll do it again. Do you agree that it would be dishonest for R.J. Haney to show up at the trial of this case and tell the jury that R.J. Haney or Dennis Colbert accept responsibility for this wreck, when in fact R.J. Haney and Dennis Colbert have steadfastly denied responsibility for this wreck for about 18 months now?
Yes.
I'm going to show you some other documents. And this is going to be Plaintiff's Exhibit 3. I got to show you 3 and 4 together, actually. I'll hand these first to Mr. Rogers. He can look over them and then hand them to you. This is going to be RFA's request for admissions and then R.J. Haney's response to request for admission.
Okay.
Mr. Kelly, I presume you've never seen requests for admissions before either, but we can walk through how it works. The first document, which is Plaintiff's Exhibit 3, says Plaintiff's first request for admission to defendant R.J. Haney and Associates, Inc. Is that right?
That's right.
And then the next document, Plaintiff's Exhibit 4, says defendant R.J. Haney and Associate Incorporated response to plaintiff's first request for admissions of fact. Is that right?
That's right.
All right. So the way this works is that you look at Plaintiff's Exhibit 3, and this is we, the plaintiff, make statements and ask R.J. Haney, through its lawyer, to either admit or deny them, and then Plaintiff's Exhibit 4 is the response. And what I want to ask you about is request number 11. Do you see request number 11 in Plaintiff's Exhibit 3?
I do.
That says, plaintiff did not contribute to causing the collision in any manner. Did I read that right?
Yes.
And plaintiff is my client, Christian Ford, who was rear-ended. You understand that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And then if we look at Plaintiff's Exhibit 4, which is R.J. Haney's response, you see 11 down there at the bottom of the page, and it says, defendant denies the allegations contained within plaintiff's admission 11. Did I read that right?
Yes.
So what that means is R.J. Haney has denied the statement that the plaintiff did not contribute to causing the collision in any manner. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Do you think that's correct?
Yes.
In other words, as you sit here today, you think it would be false to say that the plaintiff did not contribute to causing the collision in any manner.
Honestly, I don't know.
Do you know one way or the other whether Christian Ford did anything to cause this collision?
No. Honestly, don't know.
Okay. Would you agree that safety is a priority at R.J. Haney?
Yes.
Is safety the number one priority at R.J. Haney?
Yes.
And the reason for that is if R.J. Haney does not prioritize safety, somebody could get hurt. Isn't that right?
That's correct.
The safety in particular of R.J. Haney's drivers is important.
Yes.
And the reason for that is if some of R.J. Haney's drivers are unsafe, then some member of the public could get hurt.
Possibly.
I want to show you now a document that I'll mark as Plaintiff's Exhibit 5. And that is R.J. Haney's Safety Program Manual. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. Turn with me please, to page 2 of the Safety Program Manual. It says at the top, our commitment and policy to all supervisors and employees. Are you there?
Yes.
The first policy for safety at R.J. Haney, enumerated number 1, is, quote, all injuries can be prevented. This is a realistic goal. Unless we fully believe that all injuries can be prevented, accidents will become acceptable, end quote. Did I read that right?
Yes.
Do you agree that that is R.J. Haney's policy?
Yes.
Does R.J. Haney follow that policy?
Yes.
Number 2 says, quote, management is dedicated to preventing injuries and illnesses. Safety management is as important as any other aspect of our business, end quote. Did I read that right?
Yes.
Do you agree that is R.J. Haney's policy?
Yes.
Does R.J. Haney follow that policy?
Yes.
Number 5 says, quote, employees will be trained to work safely. There will be safety rules and procedures for all jobs. Training is an ongoing process, end quote. Did I read that correctly?
Yes.
Do you agree that is R.J. Haney's policy?
Yes.
Does R.J. Haney follow that policy?
Yes.
It is the responsibility of the company, R.J. Haney, to make sure that the work of R.J. Haney is carried out in a safe manner. Is that correct?
Yes.
R.J. Haney employees can be fired for violating traffic safety rules. Is that correct?
Yes.
It is the job of the company, R.J. Haney, to train employees about safety rules. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
And that includes safe driving.
Yes.
It is the job of the company specifically to train its drivers how to drive company vehicles safely, isn't it?
Yes.
Driving a company vehicle like a bucket truck is different than driving a regular car, isn't it?
Yes.
That's because a bucket truck is bigger and it's heavier.
That's right.
And a bucket truck, if it hits something, can cause more damage than a regular car.
Yes.
It takes longer for a bucket truck to stop than a regular car because it's heavier, right?
Yes.
And it's the job of R.J. Haney, the company, to train its drivers about all those things, right?
Yes.
Supervisors at R.J. Haney are supposed to be role models for safety. Is that true?
Yes.
Now, the reason that R.J. Haney has rules about driving safety is so the company doesn't put members of the public in danger. Is that right?
And our employees, yes.
R.J. Haney has what it calls a company driver list or approved driver list. Is that right?
I believe so, yes.
Which of those phrases is correct, or does R.J. Haney use both?
I really don't, that's not my responsibility. I don't know, but
Okay.
I believe so, yes.
Okay. Before an R.J. Haney employee can be on the company driver's list, the company has to obtain and review that person's motor vehicle report, or MVR. Is that correct?
The company,
Right.
when we interview, I know we take a copy of their driver's license, so I would assume so. But
Does the company, R.J. Haney, review a motor vehicle report, or MVR?
the company, I don't think so.
Okay. Who does?
The insurance company,
Is that Harleysville Insurance?
I don't know.
Do you know the name of the person you deal with?
With Harleysville?
Yeah, at the insurance company.
No.
Okay. If I were to tell you that according to the person we just deposed, Ms. B.B. Haney, the insurance company that R.J. Haney depends on to vet its drivers' histories is Harleysville Insurance Company, would you have any reason to disagree with that?
No.
Okay. I think we may have a stipulation to that effect, actually.
Yes.
Okay. So R.J. Haney depends on the insurance company to tell it whether someone is a safe driver. Is that true?
Yes.
The truth is, if an R.J. Haney employee has a combination of 3 wrecks or, strike that. If an R.J. Haney employee has a combination of 3 accidents or traffic tickets within 3 years, that person cannot be on the company driver list. Is that true?
I don't know.
Turn with me, please, to page 18 in the Safety Program Manual. And what exhibit number is, I think it's 5. Is the Safety Program Manual exhibit 5? It'll be on the sticker on the front. I just forgot what number I put on
It is.
Okay, thank you. So turn with me, please, to page 18 in Plans Exhibit 5, which is the Safety Program Manual. This page says driver standards at the top. Is that right?
That's right.
And it says the first thing is, before an employee can be added to the approved driver list, they must, did I read that right?
Yes.
And there's several bullet points underneath, but the 4th one says, quote, have no more than a combination of 3 accidents and or moving violations in the past 3 years, end quote. Did I read that correctly?
That's correct.
So if somebody has any more than 3 of a combination of traffic tickets or accidents in 3 years, they're not supposed to drive R.J. Haney vehicles. Is that right?
That's correct.
Turn with me to page 16 of Plans Exhibit 5, which is the Safety Program Manual, please. And I'm going to ask you about enumeration 4. Go ahead and take a minute and read that, then I'll ask you the question.
Okay.
R.J. Haney requires that any driver who receives a ticket or a citation, like a speeding ticket, has to report that ticket to R.J. Haney the next business day. Is that right?
To the safety director, right.
Who is the safety director at R.J. Haney as we sit here today?
Today, Alan Ray.
Who was the safety director in April of 2014?
B.B. Haney.
And who was the safety director before B.B. Haney?
Harry Stanley.
Okay. What is a toolbox safety meeting?
It's a variety of topics for safety. It's handed out in sheet form, and the foremen go through it with their employees on a weekly basis.
Mm-hmm. Is it a hard copy paper, or do you distribute electronically, or both?
Hard copy.
All right. So if I say the toolbox safety, what would you call the piece of paper that's distributed? What's your term for that?
What you just said, toolbox safety topic.
Toolbox safety topic. All right. And there's one goes out every week, right?
To my knowledge, yes.
Do any of the toolbox safety topics ever address driving safety?
I don't know.
Okay. Have any of the toolbox safety topics ever addressed the wreck we're here on today, the one that occurred in April of 2014?
No.
For some R.J. Haney employees like Dennis Colbert, driving is a part of their job. Is that correct?
Yes.
So when hiring people for jobs that will involve driving, it's important for R.J. Haney to make sure they're hiring safe drivers. Is that right?
Yes.
And that's why, according to R.J. Haney's policy, the company should check for a motor vehicle report before allowing that person to drive a company vehicle.
Yes.
What a motor vehicle report does is it gives you a complete driving history for that person, doesn't it?
Yes.
That's why when it hires people, R.J. Haney has them fill out an authorization to obtain a motor vehicle report.
That's
Are you familiar
correct.
with that?
Yes.
I'm going to mark one and show it to you. All right. I've now marked as plaintiff 6 a document that's labeled authorization to obtain motor vehicle report. Is that right?
That's right.
And this is signed twice by Dennis Colbert. Is that correct?
I don't know if that's Dennis Colbert or Dennis Cole.
Do you have someone who works here named Dennis Cole?
Yes. We used to. He's no longer here. He's no longer here. He no longer here.
Is this document, that is to say the authorization to obtain motor vehicle report, typically something that R.J. Haney obtains around the same time that you hire a person?
It's obtained before we hire him.
Before hiring. And this document, Plaintiff's Exhibit 6, the authorization to obtain motor vehicle report, is dated June 26, 2008 at the top, and then at the bottom it goes into drug testing, and that's dated June 28, 2008. Is that right?
That's correct.
That would coincide with the time that Dennis Colbert was hired, wouldn't it?
I don't know.
Okay, we'll return. Yeah, we'll return to that
Do you want me to
later.
stipulate to the document as being the authorization signed by Dennis Colbert?
All right, by
Would
the
that
document.
take care of that?
Yes, that does.
Okay.
Thank you.
I don't know why we would have given you Dennis Cole's, but
What this document, Plaintiff's Exhibit 6, does is it allows R.J. Haney to obtain a motor vehicle report for Dennis Colbert. Is that right?
That's right.
All right. In addition to checking the motor vehicle report, what else should R.J. Haney do to make sure that someone is a safe driver before hiring them?
objective form, foundation.
That's really not my job to figure that out. Does it make sense?
Can you think of anything else as you sit here today that R.J. Haney does or should do besides obtaining a motor vehicle report or MVR before hiring that person in order to be sure that person is a safe driver?
Renew the objection to the extent you can't answer, please do so.
Drug test and observe their driving, maybe?
Observe the driving. Tell me what you mean by that, please.
Well, before we just put somebody in a bucket truck, we usually, the guys will make sure they know how to operate it.
Would you do like a drive test with them?
No, typically it's on the job site.
And who makes sure that the drivers know how to drive a bucket truck?
The foreman.
The foreman. Who would have done that with Dennis Colbert?
Could have been a variety of people.
Could it have been Jason Armstrong?
Could have been.
Tell me what that entails, making sure that someone knows how to operate a bucket truck.
Well, I'm not actually in the field, so I don't know exactly. But they make sure they're safe before they put them out there.
Do you know if it involves watching that person? Let's see. Do you know if that procedure involves watching the person actually drive the bucket truck?
I don't know.
All right.
I would assume so, though.
That would be a good idea, anyway, before you allow someone to drive a bucket truck, to actually observe that person driving the bucket truck.
That's right.
Check foundation.
All right. How many bucket trucks does R.J. Haney have?
Approximately 15 to 20.
And I noticed in your parking lot back there, there's some other kinds of trucks too. There's a kind of truck that I might call a flatbed, but I could be using the wrong term.
That's right.
Flatbed?
Mhm.
Flatbed trucks look like they're about the size of a bucket truck or maybe a little bigger.
A little bigger.
What about if someone is able to drive a bucket truck, are they automatically able to drive a flatbed too, as far as R.J. Haney is concerned?
If they don't have a CDL, they can drive any truck that's not CDL.
Do you have to have a CDL to drive a flatbed truck?
Not one that's under 26,000 GVW.
Are there any flatbed trucks that are above 26,000 GVW?
I don't believe so.
Okay. So if someone is authorized to drive a bucket truck, they're also authorized to drive a flatbed truck.
Yes.
Dennis Colbert would have been authorized to drive either one,
Yes.
and still is authorized to drive either one.
Yes.
I took a picture as we were coming back from lunch on my phone that I think shows all the different truck types. And I'm going to show it to you and ask you about it.
Okay.
And after this deposition is over, I'm going to email this picture around to everybody, including Jody, our court reporter, and your lawyer, and the UM lawyer, to make sure that we all have a copy of it. But I'm now showing you my iPhone.
Try not to touch the screen.
It's all right. It's a touch screen.
Okay, that's still the.
Let me restart the question. I'm now showing you my phone here that has a picture I just took, and I think that picture shows 3 trucks on it. Is that right?
That's right.
There's 2 white bucket trucks on either side, and then a red flatbed truck in the middle. Is that right?
That's right.
Those are all R.J. Haney trucks.
Yes.
And we'll put, for the record, what I've labeled Plaintiff's Exhibit 7 down. This is a piece of paper that's going to be a stand-in for that picture until I can email it around so it can be substituted for the record.
Okay.
Both bucket trucks and flatbed trucks are much heavier than regular cars, right?
Yes.
And that's why when you're driving a bucket truck, a driver should leave more space between the bucket truck and the car ahead of it in traffic than you would have to leave with a regular vehicle. Is that right?
Objective form foundation.
Yes.
With a bucket truck, it's important that strike that. A bucket truck driver generally should probably drive slower and more cautiously than you would in a regular car because it's heavier and more dangerous. Is that right?
Objective form foundation.
They should always drive safe. Doesn't matter what they're in.
What if you're driving in traffic? What is the appropriate distance in a bucket truck to keep between the bucket truck and the car ahead of it?
Objective form foundation.
I don't know.
Who at R.J. Haney knows the answer to that question?
I don't know.
That's a question, that's an answer that the drivers of R.J. Haney need to know, isn't it?
I would assume so, yes.
All right. Hang on just a second. I think, never mind, don't worry about it.
When you asked me who at R.J. Haney, are you talking management or are you talking field?
Anybody?
Well, the guys that operate the bucket trucks, no.
So basically, everyone on the approved driver's list should know how much distance there should be between a bucket truck and the car ahead of it in traffic. Is that right?
Everyone in the field that drives a bucket truck, yes, should know.
If someone's not qualified to drive a bucket truck, they shouldn't be on the R.J. Haney approved driver list, should they?
They can be. Management.
Well, let's see. Dennis Colbert, well, let's put it this way. Dennis Colbert should know the answer to that question. Let me strike that. Dennis Colbert should know how much distance there should be between a bucket truck and the car ahead of it in traffic. Is that true?
Yes.
What training materials specific to driving does R.J. Haney provide to the people that drive its vehicles?
I don't know.
Do you know of any such materials as you sit here today?
No.
I'm going to show you some more pictures here. Now we'll mark this as Plaintiff's Exhibit 8. This is a picture that we plaintiffs received from R.J. Haney in this case, in a process known as discovery. That is a picture of an Plaintiff's Exhibit 8 is a picture of an R.J. Haney bucket truck, isn't it?
Yes.
Do you know this? Let's see. Do you know whether this is the bucket truck that was actually involved in the collision?
No.
If I told you that this was the bucket truck that was involved in the collision, would you have any reason to dispute that?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Actually, this is the way to handle it. Mr. Rogers, can we agree that Plaintiff's Exhibit 8 shows the bucket truck that was involved in the subject collision?
And subsequent to said collision, yes. And subsequent to said collision, yes.
Yes. Right.
As a post-collision photograph,
Right.
or two post-collision photographs.
Yes, sir, you are correct. Okay. We talked earlier about safety being a priority at R.J. Haney. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Would you agree that the only way to improve on safety is to learn from your mistakes?
No.
All right, why do you disagree?
There's other ways.
Okay. Well, once a mistake is made in the area of safety, the best way to move forward from that is to learn from that mistake. Do you agree with that?
It's one of the ways, yeah.
Anyway, once you make a mistake, you should learn from that mistake. Is that right?
Yes.
And the only way to learn from a mistake is to admit that it was a mistake. Is that right?
Correct.
If you don't investigate past mistakes, then you can't keep them from happening in the future. Is that right?
Yes.
After a wreck involving an R.J. Haney vehicle, R.J. Haney should investigate that wreck. Is that right?
I would assume so, yes.
How does R.J. Haney investigate wrecks involving R.J. Haney vehicles?
It's not in my job title, job description. I don't know exactly how they do it.
Okay. Well, R.J. Haney has investigated. Let me ask you the same question for traffic tickets. R.J. Haney should investigate whenever one of its approved drivers gets a traffic ticket, right?
Depends on the ticket, but again, that's not in my realm.
Let's assume it's a speeding ticket. If an R.J. Haney approved driver gets a speeding ticket, is that something that R.J. Haney should look into?
Well, according to our policy, they're supposed to notify us.
Should R.J. Haney then look into it?
A speeding ticket?
Yes.
No.
No. R.J. Haney doesn't believe it's worth looking into the speeding tickets gotten by its approved drivers.
Looking into? I mean, explain that.
Okay. Considering the circumstances and deciding whether to reprimand the driver who got the speeding ticket.
Yes, they do.
All right. By that, I take it that you mean when an approved driver, R.J. Haney, gets a speeding ticket, the company investigates the circumstances and decides whether to reprimand the driver who got the speeding ticket.
Yes.
Do you know Jason Armstrong?
Yes,
You're his supervisor. We already talked about that.
that's right.
There was a time where he got a speeding ticket in an R.J. Haney vehicle. Isn't that right?
I don't know.
Well, let me see if I can jog your memory. I think this was in 2009, and I think you actually verbally reprimanded Armstrong for getting a speeding ticket.
Armstrong? Honestly, I do not remember.
Okay. If Armstrong, did you know Armstrong was given a deposition in this case?
Yes.
If Armstrong testified in this deposition that he got a speeding ticket in an R.J. Haney vehicle, would you have any reason to dispute that?
No. If he testified, no.
And if he said that you verbally reprimanded him, would you have any reason to dispute that?
Nope.
Do you know or remember an R.J. Haney driver called Ronald Long?
Yes.
Does Ronald Long still work for R.J. Haney?
Yes.
Is he allowed to drive R.J. Haney vehicles?
Yes.
Were you aware that Ronald Long, strike that. Was there ever a period where Ronald Long was not allowed to drive R.J. Haney vehicles?
No.
All right. When R.J. Haney investigates an accident, would you agree that it's R.J. Haney's normal routine to create an incident report
Objective
for that
form
accident?
accommodation.
Yes.
Who writes the incident reports?
Now,
Sure.
it would be our HR director,
And who's that?
Alan Ray.
Okay. Was there ever a time when the incident reports were written by the driver who was in the accident?
Yes.
When was that time?
That's actually what I meant. The driver generates it,
Okay.
Alan takes it.
All right, let me run that back so we
Yeah,
have a
go
clean
back.
record on it. So when R.J. Haney generates a incident report following a motor vehicle wreck, the driver who was involved in the wreck writes the incident report.
That's right.
And then the driver gives that report to Alan Ray or whoever occupies the position that Ray now occupies.
That's right.
Okay. Have you ever seen an incident report for this wreck, the wreck in which Christian Ford was injured?
No.
Does such a report exist?
I don't know.
If such a report does not exist, can you think of any reason why it doesn't exist?
No.
Can you think of any explanation at all for why there might not be an incident report at R.J. Haney for the wreck in which Christian Ford was injured?
No.
Have you ever seen the MVR or motor vehicle report for Dennis Colbert?
No.
R.J. Haney does normally obtain the MVR or motor vehicle report for its approved drivers, right?
No, the insurance company does that.
If R.J. Haney wanted to look at one, could R.J. Haney ask the insurance company for a copy of that MVR?
I don't know.
Okay. Isn't it true that in its applications for employment, R.J. Haney does not ask the people it is considering hiring about their driving history?
That's not true.
All right. So so someone's application for employment does ask about a person's driving history.
Not specifically about the history, just we tell them it will be reviewed, and a lot of times we'll list the 3 accidents in the past 3 years, that kind of thing. We'll give them the company policy.
Oh, okay. So when R.J. Haney hires somebody, they tell them about 3 accidents or tickets in the past 3-year rule that we discussed earlier.
That's right.
All right. R.J. Haney interviews the people that it hires, right?
That's right.
In that interview, do you discuss the driver's history, or do you leave that for the MVR authorization?
We don't discuss the history unless they offer it.
In other words, in the application and interview process, the only time where R.J. Haney regularly looks into driving history is by obtaining that authorization to obtain an MVR that we talked about earlier.
Yeah,
That's right?
I think so, yes.
Okay. R.J. Haney does ask for references when it gets an application from somebody, right?
Yes.
Does R.J. Haney call those references?
Sometimes.
Who determines whether to call the references or not?
The interviewer.
Okay. Who interviewed Dennis Colbert?
Me.
Oh, did you call his references?
No.
What did you discuss in his interview?
The main thing I remember is his WTCS certification.
Say that again, WTCS?
Yes.
What does that mean?
Worksite Traffic Control Supervisor.
All right. So that means that Dennis Colbert, before he started working at R.J. Haney, was run that acronym by me again.
Worksite Traffic Control Supervisor.
So that means before Dennis Colbert came to work for R.J. Haney, he was a worksite traffic control supervisor.
That's right.
That was at Archer Western, right?
That's correct.
Did you call anybody at Archer Western to ask about Dennis Colbert?
No.
Do you know whether Dennis Colbert was involved in any collisions while he was at Archer Western?
No.
Wouldn't that be important to know?
No.
If someone that R.J. Haney hires and puts on the road in a bucket truck has had previous collisions, that's not something R.J. Haney wants to know about.
And that's why we get the MVR, or why the insurance company gets the MVR.
Okay. So let me ask it open-ended. If a person that R.J. Haney is hiring has been involved in a motor vehicle collision at their former employer, is that something that R.J. Haney wants to know about?
There's no policy regarding that.
What do you think?
I don't know that it's any of our business at the time of interview, because to call a reference where an employee currently works would jeopardize their employment with that employer. That's why we didn't call Archer Western.
Did you call Archer Western at any time after Dennis Colbert had come to work for R.J. Haney, but before he started driving bucket trucks?
No.
I'm going to show you. Well, let me ask you this generally. we know that R.J. Haney obtained an authorization for an MVR from Dennis Colbert because we've looked at that document, right?
Right.
Other than that, what did R.J. Haney or you do to make sure that Dennis Colbert was a safe driver before hiring him?
That's it.
All right, I'm going to show you now a document that I'll mark as Plaintiff's Exhibit 9. Try to put the sticker somewhere where it won't obscure anything. That's pretty good. All right. You might show that to Mr. Rogers first.
Mr. Rogers.
Plaintiff's Exhibit 9 is Dennis Colbert's application for employment at R.J. Haney. Is that right?
Yes.
Now, we've already looked at the authorization to obtain an MVR, and that authorization is not a part of Plaintiff's Exhibit 9, correct?
Correct.
Other than that, are we missing any pages from Plaintiff's Exhibit 9, or is this the entirety of Dennis Colbert's application?
I don't know.
As you sit here today and look at Plaintiff's Exhibit 9, can you think of any pages that are missing or anything like that?
From a completed application for the whole process? Yeah,
A completed application for employment.
Yeah, there are other things that are filled out, yes.
Like what?
Well, like the MVR, like the consent to a drug test, like there's a something people sign basically stating that whatever they say they can do, they can actually do, operating equipment, stuff like that.
All right, I think I know what you're talking about. Let's see here.
There might be something else, but I don't remember.
The what I'm driving is that I don't think that other stuff is, we might just use different terminology, really part of the application. But I've got with me now, and I guess I'll have to mark it, although it's big, as Plaintiff's Exhibit 10. What's been produced to us is the entirety of Dennis Colbert's employee file. And I'll hand you a copy of it.
Okay.
Oh, here, we got another copy. You can have a copy. All right.
Killing trees.
Okay. And if we look at Plaintiff's Exhibit 10, which is the entirety of Dennis Colbert's employee file, the first 2 pages are the same thing as Plaintiff's Exhibit 9, which is to say the application for employment. Is that right?
That's correct.
And then after that, in Plaintiff's Exhibit 10, comes the authorization to obtain an MVR and the pre-employment drug testing, right?
Correct.
And then there's the verification of experience and capabilities, which you just referred to.
Correct.
And the next thing in here is the W-4 form. Right?
I've got something else.
Okay. What's next?
Dennis's certifications and his copy of his driver's license.
Okay. What's next?
W4.
W-4. From the application process, do we appear to be missing anything in Plaintiff's Exhibit 10?
I don't think so.
So in terms of the applicant for employment actually answering questions and supplying information for R.J. Haney, it's really just those first 2 pages in Plaintiff's Exhibit 10, is that right?
That's right.
And that's the same as Plaintiff's Exhibit 9, right?
Yes.
So for the applicant actually answering questions and providing information, that's all done on the application that's been marked as Plaintiff's Exhibit 9, is that right?
Yes, and verbally, of course,
in the interview?
in the interview.
Okay. All right. My understanding is that from some of these discovery responses that R.J. Haney does not now have in its possession here in this office, and has never had here in this office, a copy of Dennis Colbert's MVR. Is that true?
I don't know.
You don't know? Okay. Anyway, you've never seen it.
No.
Well, you know what an MVR looks like, right?
Yes.
Okay. It provides everything you want to know about driver history, right?
Right.
All right. We're going to return to that a little bit later. I want to show you another document, and this one I'll mark Plaintiff's Exhibit 11. And we're going to go back to looking at discovery responses like we were doing earlier. You might show that to Mr. Rogers if he wants to look. This says on it, on the first page, R.J. Haney and Associates Incorporated's response to plaintiff's first interrogatories and requests for production of documents. Is that right?
Yes.
And if you flip to the next page, you'll see a number 26, and it'll show the question that plaintiffs asked and then the response that R.J. Haney gave. Do you see that?
Yes.
The question was, quote, at the time of the collision, did you have any policy or procedure manuals pertaining to the operation of defendant's vehicle, such as driver's manuals, company rules, or other tangible materials by whatever name? If so, provide the name of each such manual. Did I read that correctly?
Yes.
And the answer was no.
Yes.
That means that at the time of the collision in April 2014, R.J. Haney did not have any policy or procedure manuals pertaining to the operation of the defendant's vehicle. Is that correct?
My personal knowledge, I don't know.
Do you have any reason to disagree with the response to number 26 in Plaintiff's Exhibit 11?
No.
How many employees did R.J. Haney have? I had my microphone covered up. Let me start that again. How many employees did R.J. Haney have in April of 2014, approximately?
2014,
Yeah. Time of this wreck.
approximately 65, 70.
Okay. What did R.J. Haney do to investigate the wreck in which Christian Ford was injured?
I don't know.
Do you know who investigated that?
No.
Have you talked with anyone who investigated the wreck?
No.
Do you know who should have investigated the wreck?
Should have investigated the wreck? No.
All right. Dennis Colbert's a foreman, I think we said. Is that right?
Correct.
So that means there are people who work under him, right?
Yes.
Do you know who those people are as you sit here?
Brian Tilton.
Uh-huh.
And I believe he has one other, but I cannot remember his name.
Okay, so we think that 2 people work under Dennis Colbert today.
Right.
Would 2 people have been working under Dennis Colbert in April of 2014?
No.
When did they start working? When did people start working under Dennis Colbert, approximately?
(2014), you said? Yeah. Can I go back?
Sure.
Because I was thinking you said when, or you were talking about when he was hired, not 2014.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he probably did have people under him in 2014.
Okay. Let me clean up the record a little bit. In April of 2014, you think that there were probably people working under Dennis Colbert.
That's right.
Now, I think you said a foreman or a foreperson is responsible for training the people that work under that person.
Yes.
So Dennis Colbert's responsible for training the people that work under him.
Yes.
And that's 2 people.
Yes.
He trains them on a lot of stuff, including how to drive a bucket truck, right?
Yes.
All right. Are you aware that if I say this wreck, I'm always going to refer to the wreck in April of 2014 where Christian Ford was injured? Will you understand what I'm talking about if I use the phrase this wreck?
Yes.
Are you aware that this wreck involved a line of cars?
Yes.
Are you aware that in front of the R.J. Haney bucket truck was a Buick SUV, and then ahead of that Buick SUV was Christian Ford's car?
No.
Do you have any reason to disagree with that?
No.
Do you know how fast Dennis Colbert was driving at the time of the wreck?
No.
Does anybody at R.J. Haney other than Dennis Colbert know that?
I don't know.
Do you know how much distance Dennis Colbert had left between his bucket truck and the car ahead of him immediately before this wreck?
No.
Do you know of anyone at R.J. Haney other than Dennis Colbert who knows that?
No.
Can you tell us what Dennis Colbert could have done to prevent this wreck, if anything?
No.
What are your thoughts on what he could have done to prevent this wreck? Why do you think?
Nothing. No. Nothing that I'm aware of.
You're not aware of anything that Dennis Colbert could have done to prevent this wreck?
No.
You said earlier that you didn't think Dennis Colbert was at fault for this wreck.
Correct.
Why?
Because he wasn't cited.
So in terms of making a decision as to whether Dennis Colbert was at fault for the wreck, what you looked at is whether Dennis Colbert received a citation or ticket for the wreck.
That's my opinion, yes.
That's what you relied upon to reach your conclusion.
The conclusion I just made, yes.
Is there anything else that you used to reach the conclusion that Dennis Colbert was not at fault for this wreck?
No.
All right. Do you know whether Dennis Colbert hit the brakes before he struck Christian Ford's car?
No.
Have you or anyone else at R.J. Haney talked to any witnesses to this wreck other than Dennis Colbert?
No. Well, I haven't, no.
Do you know of anyone else who has?
No.
Have you or anyone else at R.J. Haney, to your knowledge, talked to the police officer that responded to this wreck?
No, I haven't.
Have you heard that the, if I say wreck report, I'm referring to the document that police officers generate after a car wreck happens. Is that a familiar term to you?
Yes.
Have you heard folks say that the wreck report in this case does not accurately describe how the collision occurred in terms of who was in what car and what order they were in?
No.
Do you have an opinion one way or the other about whether the wreck report's diagram is accurate?
No.
If Dennis Colbert was to be reprimanded, strike that. If Dennis Colbert was to be I'm losing it. If Dennis Colbert was to be reprimanded for this wreck, you would have been in a position to reprimand him if you so chose. Is that correct?
I could have, yes.
But the reason you didn't is that he didn't get a ticket or a citation from the police officer. Is that right?
Yes.
All right. We've got some more discovery stuff here that I think we could skip. Uh-huh. Do you, in the history of R.J. Haney, do you know of any occasion where a driver has been reprimanded for a wreck even though he didn't receive a ticket or a citation from the police officer?
Yes.
Tell me about it, please.
I had an employee that hit a bollard in a gas station.
Did what
And
now?
Hit a bollard in a gas station.
What's a baller?
Bollard. It's a concrete, you know, the yellow concrete post.
Yeah.
There was no citation given, but she was reprimanded.
Who was that person?
Lori Boyd. Lori Boyd.
Laurie Boyd.
Lori, L-O-R-I. Boyd. Boyd. I'm sorry, B-O-Y-D. Is it
Okay.
D or T? I think it's T.
Okay. Laurie Boyd.
Boyd, yes.
When was that? Approximately.
About a year ago.
Okay. So I'll say 2014 or 2015.
Yeah.
Or what date would you say? Somewhere in 2014? or what?
2014, I was there.
Okay. So sometime in 2014, Laurie Boyd, an R.J. Haney driver, hit a concrete post in a gas station parking lot, and she was reprimanded even though she received no ticket or citation. Is that true?
That's true.
Other than that, can you think of any time in the history of R.J. Haney that you know of where a driver was reprimanded for a collision even though they received no ticket or citation?
I know there's been a few, but I don't know offhand. I don't remember exactly which incident they were.
If you can't think of them as you see here today,
Yeah.
that's all right. Do you know, well, while we're on the subject, Dennis Colbert has never been reprimanded for anything related to driving since he's been at R.J. Haney, has he?
I don't recall. Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. I do need to show you this discovery thing. I'll mark it as Plaintiff's Exhibit 12. All right. I passed your lawyer first. Plaintiff's Exhibit 12 is labeled R.J. Haney and Associates Incorporated's response to plaintiff's first interrogatories and first request for production of documents, right?
Yes.
And I think we've talked about the way these work before, but essentially plaintiffs, that is to say Christian Ford, asks a question and then R.J. Haney gives an answer. And if you turn to the second page of Plaintiff's Exhibit 12, you'll see the question that plaintiffs ask, and that is, quote, did you, meaning R.J. Haney, or any related entity make an incident report or internal report by any other name in connection with the collision, end quote. Did I read that correctly?
Yes.
And the answer on the third page of Plaintiff's Exhibit 12 is no. Did I read that correctly?
Yes.
This means that R.J. Haney didn't create an incident report for the wreck in which Christian Ford was injured, correct?
Correct.
You have any reason to disagree with that?
No.
All right.
We are now back on the video record. The time is currently 1:54 p.m. This is the beginning of tape number 2.
All right.
Microphone.
Has Dennis Colbert ever told you about any traffic ticket or citation that he received?
No.
Has anyone else at R.J. Haney ever told you about any traffic ticket or citation that Dennis Colbert received?
No.
Has the insurance company upon which R.J. Haney relies to review its drivers' histories ever told you about any ticket or citation that Dennis Colbert received?
Not that I remember, no.
To the best of your knowledge, has the insurance company upon which R.J. Haney relies to review its drivers' histories ever told anyone at R.J. Haney about traffic tickets or citations that Dennis Colbert received?
Not to the best of my knowledge, no.
Has Dennis Colbert ever told you about any car wreck? Strike that. Has Dennis Colbert ever told you about any wreck in which he was involved other than the April 2014 wreck that we're here about today?
Not that I remember, no.
Has anyone else at R.J. Haney ever told you about any wreck that Dennis Colbert has been involved in other than the April 2014 wreck that we're here about today?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Has the insurance company upon which R.J. Haney relies to review its drivers' histories ever told you about any wreck that Dennis Colbert's been involved in other than the one that we're here about today?
No.
To the best of your knowledge, has the insurance company upon which R.J. Haney relies to review its drivers' histories ever told anyone else at R.J. Haney about any wrecks in which Dennis Colbert has been involved other than the April 2014 wreck that we're here about today?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
We talked earlier about MVRs, and you said that you hadn't seen Dennis Colbert's but knew what they looked like. Is that right? You remember that?
Yes.
Let me see what my note says. Oh, yeah, we'll do this now. Now, we talked about the 3 wrecks or tickets rule a little bit earlier. You remember that?
Yes.
That requirement actually comes from the Harleysville Insurance Company, right?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, so the insurance company knows all about that rule.
Yes.
All right, MVRs. I'm going to show you what I'm going to mark as Plaintiff's Exhibit 13. And this has been marked as a deposition exhibit before to Dennis Colbert, I think. Show it to Mr. Rogers and then he'll pass it back to you.
Do you have another copy of this by any chance?
I do, but I need to use it.
Oh.
We may have,
Yeah, just because there's so much on it, so detailed.
yeah. Let's take a minute. I bet we can get you one.
Or yeah, I mean, I can run out and make a quick copy of this one.
Let's see what Mr. Rafey has in his briefcase.
Any chance here?
Our paralegal had to step out yesterday afternoon, which left me to prepare all the documents myself, which means I don't have adequate copies of everything because I'm not as good at it as she is.
We got a copier up front if you need it.
A copy of what now?
I said we have a copier up
Oh, a
front
copier.
if you need it. 25 cents a page.
Okay.
Yeah, but they're really bad at collecting.
Yes.
Trying to give you one that doesn't have my notes on. They're not that important, don't worry.
All right. Make sure, please, Mr. Rogers, that that's the copies. Has all the pages and stuff on it.
Yeah.
And then we'll be ready.
Yep.
And that's plaintiff's 13
Correct.
sticker on the front?
Well, for this deposition, yes.
Yeah.
It also has the 42415 Exhibit 4 sticker.
Okay. All right. Mr. Kelly, I've now handed you what's been marked as Plaintiff's Exhibit 13. Is that right?
That's right.
And on the first page, it says Georgia Department of Driver Services. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then it appears to be a letter from Georgia DDS to Mr. Rafey, who's practices law with me and is sitting here behind me. Is that right?
Yes.
The next page of Plaintiff's Exhibit 13 starts the MVR. Is that correct?
Yes.
And this is an MVR for Dennis Colbert, is what it says if you look at the top left area of the page. Is that right?
Yes.
This is the first time you've ever seen this document.
Yes.
All right. Let's take a quick look through it. If the very first citation here on the first page of the MVR, which is the second page of Plaintiff's Exhibit 13 to your deposition, has at the bottom there an enumeration 1. Do you see that?
Yes.
That appears to be a speeding ticket in Lake City. Is that right?
That's right.
And then number 2 is a speeding ticket in Lake City. Is that right?
Yes.
If you flip to the next page, you'll see number 3 is a speeding ticket in Louisiana, it looks like. Is that right?
Yes.
Number 4, speeding ticket in DeKalb Recorder's Court.
Yes.
Number 5, speeding ticket in College Park.
Yes.
Number 6, speeding ticket in Avondale Estates Municipal Court.
Yes.
Number 7, speeding ticket in DeKalb Recorder's Court.
Yes.
Number 8, failure to yield right-of-way in Clayton State Court.
Yes.
All right. And then let's go to the last page of Plaintiff's Exhibit 13 to your deposition. And this has 3 items on it. All of them say Georgia serious commercial disqualification. Is that right?
The first 2.
You're right. Excuse me. The first 2 say Georgia serious commercial disqualification, correct?
Correct.
And then the third says serious violation commercial. Is that right?
That's right.
Now, having seen this MVR marked as Plaintiff's Exhibit 13, if you had to make the decision today, would you hire Dennis Colbert as a driver?
Probably not, no.
So, given what you know now, having reviewed Plaintiff's Exhibit 13, R.J. Haney made an error in hiring Dennis Colbert. Is that right?
Object to form.
No.
Why is that not right?
Because obviously we didn't know about these.
Well, let me put it this way. Did the insurance company make an error in telling R.J. Haney that it was okay to hire Dennis Colbert?
Object to form.
I can't imagine the insurance company would have let us hire him had they had this.
Now, R.J. Haney is the entity that took the active step to actually hire Colbert, correct?
Yes.
And R.J. Haney has a responsibility to make sure that its drivers are qualified to keep people safe. Is that right?
Yes.
R.J. Haney depends on the insurance company to review its drivers' histories, right?
Yes.
And if you had known, well, strike that. Who at R.J. Haney is responsible for making sure that the insurance company does its job?
I don't think there is anybody here to make sure the insurance company does its job.
Who at the insurance company is in charge of reviewing drivers' histories?
I don't know.
Has anyone at R.J. Haney ever, to your knowledge, requested an MVR or motor vehicle report like Plaintiff's Exhibit 13 on Dennis Colbert?
I don't know.
As you sit here today, you don't know of anyone who has, do you?
No.
After he was hired, has anyone at R.J. Haney, to the best of your knowledge, ever asked Dennis Colbert about his driving history?
I don't know.
You don't know of anyone who has, do you?
I believe our human resource director has annually or every year.
Well, I think that's a different thing. You're talking about the forms that get signed every year around Thanksgiving, correct?
That's correct.
That's different than an MVR like Plaintiff's Exhibit 13, isn't it?
Yes.
The forms you're talking about are called a driver's certification, I think. Is that correct?
Yes.
So to the best of your knowledge, no one at R.J. Haney has ever requested an MVR or motor vehicle report like Plaintiff's Exhibit 13 on Dennis Colbert. Is that true?
Not to my knowledge. That's right.
To your knowledge, no one has
No one
requested
has. That's right.
Jody, did you get that down clean? Let me look at the transcript to make sure we've got a clean record. Oh, that's fine, right there. All right. What changes has R.J. Haney made to its hiring process since the wreck in which Christian Ford was injured?
None that I'm aware of.
I think we established as we sit here today, Dennis Colbert is still authorized to drive a bucket truck, right?
Yes.
Having reviewed Plaintiff's Exhibit 13, that is the motor vehicle report of Dennis Colbert, is that about to change?
No.
So Dennis Colbert will continue to be allowed to drive a bucket truck for R.J. Haney.
As long as the insurance company says it can.
All right, so nothing in the motor vehicle report changes your mind about the suitability of Dennis Colbert to drive an R.J. Haney bucket truck. Is that true?
Yes. That's true.
Okay. What does R.J. Haney do now that it did not do before this wreck to make sure that the people it hires are safe drivers?
We submit their driver's licenses to the insurance company for review.
And that's the same thing that R.J. Haney was doing at the time it hired Dennis Colbert, right?
Yes.
Okay. Let's move on. How about the training program, or strike that? How has R.J. Haney changed its driver safety training programs since the wreck in which Christian Ford was injured?
It hadn't been changed.
It hadn't been changed since Dennis Colbert was hired, has it?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay. Since the wreck in which Christian Ford was injured, Dennis Colbert has not received any additional driver safety training, has he?
I don't know.
Do you know of any additional driver safety training that Dennis Colbert has received since the wreck in which Christian Ford was injured?
No.
As you sit here today, does R.J. Haney, or do you have any plans to give Dennis Colbert additional driver safety training?
Specifically Dennis Colbert?
Yes.
No.
How much does a bucket truck weigh, approximately?
They vary. Some are CDL, some are non-CDL.
The one in this wreck was a non-CDL, right?
Right.
Do you know approximately how much it weighs?
It's a guess. 8,500 pounds.
Okay, well, we can't do guesses in courts
Okay.
of law, so we'll pass on it. Let's see. What does R.J. Haney teach its drivers about how much space it takes to stop a bucket truck?
Nothing formally.
What about informally?
The foremen observe their crews driving and make sure they're doing it safely.
Who observed Dennis Colbert driving?
I don't know.
All right. What does R.J. Haney teach its drivers about how much space to leave in traffic between a bucket truck and the vehicle ahead of it?
Nothing specific.
Okay. What changes, as you sit here today, has R.J. Haney made into the way it conducts investigations into wrecks since the wreck in which Christian Ford was injured?
The policy hasn't changed.
Have R.J. Haney's actions changed?
I honestly don't know.
Okay. Now, a minute ago we talked about the driver's certification forms, right? Let me look at my notes so that I can ask these questions in an organized way, and we can conclude this deposition.
Okay.
The driver's certification forms are forms that the driver has to fill out, correct?
Yes.
And the drivers are supposed to fill those out every year around Thanksgiving.
Correct.
And that's been a requirement for a long time, right?
I believe so, yes.
At least since Dennis Colbert was hired.
Yes.
And now I'm going to show you what's been marked, or what I'm going to mark as Plaintiff's Exhibit 14. You might want to show that to Mr. Rogers.
Is that the, look for the year of the covenant?
I'll tell
Okay,
you
so
what.
13.
I'm going to hand you two of them. I'm going to hand you Plaintiff's Exhibit 15. It's the same form for a different year.
Oh, there we go. It's up at the top. Okay, thanks.
So Plaintiff's Exhibit 14 is the driver certification form for Dennis Colbert from 2013. Is that correct?
Correct.
And Plaintiff's Exhibit 15 is the driver certification form for 2012, correct?
Yes.
Neither Plaintiff's Exhibit 14 nor both Plaintiff's Exhibit 14 and Plaintiff's Exhibit 15 are for Dennis Colbert, right?
Yes.
Neither of them show any speeding ticket or vehicle crash, do they?
No.
I've been told that R.J. Haney does not have driver certification forms for Dennis Colbert for any year other than 2012 and 2013. Do you know of any reason to disagree with that?
No.
Have you seen the driver certification forms for Dennis Colbert for any year other than 2012 and 2013?
No.
All right. Does R.J. Haney send the driver certification forms to the insurance company?
I don't know.
Do you know whether the insurance company requires R.J. Haney to pass out and collect the driver certification forms?
No, I don't know.
Now, you know Dennis Colbert, right? You interviewed him.
Yes.
How often do you talk to him? On a weekly basis, say?
Probably every other week.
Okay. Do y'all exchange emails or messages or anything even when you don't talk?
No.
Okay. So is it approximately correct to say that since Dennis Colbert has been working at R.J. Haney, you've talked to him on average once every other week?
Probably.
Has he ever mentioned anything to you about identity theft?
Recently, yes.
When?
About a month ago.
Okay. Before a month ago, had Dennis Colbert ever mentioned anything to you about identity theft?
No.
Had he ever suggested that his identity was stolen anytime before about a month ago?
No.
About a month ago would be when Dennis Colbert, strike that. About a month ago would be when we took Dennis Colbert's deposition in this case. Were you aware of that?
Objective form.
Yes.
Now, one of the documents you have up there with you is the personnel file for Dennis Colbert, I think. Is that right?
Yes.
And it's Plaintiff's Exhibit number 10, right?
Yes.
Do you have you ever seen anything in Dennis Colbert's personnel file, Plaintiff's Exhibit number 10, that has to do with identity theft?
I haven't been through it.
If I told you, well, how about this, rather than taking a long time to review it? Mr. Rogers, can we stipulate that nothing in Plaintiff's Exhibit 10, which is Dennis Colbert's personnel file, has anything to do with identity theft?
I will stipulate that there is no reference to identity theft within the personnel record.
Okay. Do you also agree that Plaintiff's Exhibit 10 is the personnel record?
Yes. In fact, it appears to be the copy that we submitted to Discovery.
It is. All right. What did Dennis Colbert tell you about identity theft?
I believe it was that he had never been to Louisiana.
Okay. Was that the only thing he said about identity theft?
Pretty much, yes.
Did he indicate that some of the citations on his, well, apart from the never been to Louisiana thing, did Dennis Colbert tell you that any of the speeding tickets or other infractions on his MVR or motor vehicle report had anything to do with or were a result of identity theft?
Yes.
What did he say?
I don't remember which one specifically that he mentioned, but he did mention that a couple weren't his.
He said that a couple of the infractions on the MVR, which is Plaintiff's Exhibit 14. No, I strike that. Dang it, I screwed it up. What number is the MVR?
13.
All right. So Dennis Colbert told you that a couple of the infractions on the MVR that's marked as Plaintiff's Exhibit 13 were a result of identity theft.
He told me that a couple that he had found out about were not his. Not necessarily on this report.
Okay. But the words "a couple," that's how many he discussed with you when he said that.
I don't remember specifically.
Okay.
A few.
Okay. Did you believe him?
Yes.
Why?
Maybe I'm a trusting person. I don't know. I did believe him though.
Okay. Have you, or to your knowledge, anyone else at R.J. Haney looked into the identity theft
No.
comment?
No.
Have you or anyone else at R.J. Haney, to your knowledge, checked courthouse records for these citations to see if they really could be a result of identity theft?
No.
Have you or anyone else at R.J. Haney attempted to speak with any of the police officers who wrote the citations?
Say that one more time. I'm sorry.
Jody, do you have that one?
Have you or anyone else at R.J. Haney
attempted to speak with police officer who wrote the citation?
No. Not to my knowledge.
Have you or anyone else at R.J. Haney, to your knowledge, called or spoken with Dennis Colbert's former employers to ask about the identity theft story?
No.
Have you or anyone else at R.J. Haney checked with Dennis Colbert's credit card companies to see if the identity theft story is correct?
No.
Have you or anyone else at R.J. Haney checked with police or any other authority to look into the identity theft story?
No.
All right. What did you do to prepare for this deposition?
Nothing really.
Okay. Did you meet with Mr. Rogers or any other lawyer in advance of this deposition?
Counsel, you don't have to discuss anything we said, but you can certainly state whether we met.
Let me reiterate that. It's true. Anything, the actual words and the things that are said between you and your lawyer are subject to the attorney-client privilege. So I'm not allowed to ask about them. I'm not asking you to tell me that. Other things aren't. I can ask about whether you met, how long you met, the topics you discussed, and documents you reviewed. Some will do that. But don't tell me the specific things that were said between you and Mr. Rogers or any other lawyer that represents you or your company.
I'm going to object to him stating the topics we discussed apart from just the matters concerning this litigation. Documents he reviewed in my presence, certainly, that's fair game.
Okay. Well, I'll ask it and you can object at the time. So let me start at the top. Did you meet with Mr. Rogers, your company's lawyer who's sitting to your right, or any other lawyer in advance of this deposition?
Yes.
Did you review any documents in that meeting?
No.
Did you review any documents at all in preparation for this deposition?
No.
How long did, who were the lawyers you met with? Was it just Mr. Rogers?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
How long did you and Mr. Rogers meet?
Hour and a half.
When?
Last Thursday.
Was that the only meeting you had with Mr. Rogers in advance of this deposition?
Yes.
Have you ever met with Mr. Rogers before that meeting?
I had met him before that, yes.
When?
Around the time of the other depositions.
Okay. Did you review any documents at that time?
I don't think so, no.
In advance of this deposition, did you go and talk with anyone to try to learn answers to questions about what happened with Dennis Colbert and this wreck?
No.
What topics did you and Mr. Rogers discuss?
Again, I'll caution you not to relate anything that you and I specifically stated to each other, but the general topics of the meeting is fair.
General topics, you know, they were more based on a deposition more than, and what to expect, than specifics to the case.
Okay. Thank you for your time. I have no further questions.
Jennifer?
We are now going off the video record. The time is currently 2:22 p.m. This is the end of tape number 2.